bacteria, their byproducts. So this alters the oral epithelium, and the one which is non-antigenic becomes antigenic, and there may be an abnormal immune reaction against this epithelium. And most of the lesions in the oral cavity are based on this etiological factor. So the allergic reaction can be immediate reaction or a delayed reaction. The immediate includes anaphylaxis, hay fever, asthma, serum sickness, and delayed ones are not associated with the circulating antibodies. The common one is a aphthous ulcer, which is aphthous stomatitis. It is characterized by development of solitary or multiple ulcerations of the oral mucosa. They are small, round or oval in shape and covered with a pseudomembrane and surrounded by a erythematous halo. And they resemble herpes simplex, which undergoes ulceration, but there is a difference in the site of involvement. The etiology for aphthous stomatitis is bacterial infection, particularly because of L form of alpha hemolytic streptococci. Then it may be considered as an immunological abnormality. There is an autoimmune response to the antigenically altered mucosa. As I have said, that the mucosa gets altered antigenically because of the oral environment, which has many microorganisms and their byproducts. There may be underlying nutritional deficiencies also, like iron, vitamin B12 and folic acid deficiency. Now the factors which precipitate, we know a very common factor, that is the stress during the exam times, maybe that is a psychological factor. Then in addition to this, trauma, endocrinal conditions, the allergies, allergic reactions and systemic diseases, they can also favor the development of aphthous ulcers. There are various types of aphthous ulcers: recurrent aphthous minor, recurrent aphthous major, herpetiform and ulcers associated with Behçet syndrome. The most common form is the aphthous minor, recurrent aphthous minor, which is also called as canker sore. It is single or multiple ulcerations covered with a grayish-white pseudomembrane and surrounded by a erythematous halo. The lesions are extremely painful if you have experience. It interferes with eating and speech, and they heal by themselves within 8 to 10 days without any scarring. Now this more severe form of ulcers, that is recurrent aphthous major, they are larger, deeper, and this was once called as periadenitis mucosa necrotica recurrence because they occurred in the posterior part of the oral cavity near the adenoids, and it had a recurring tendency. So ulcers range from 1 to 10 in numbers. They are extremely painful and they persist for a longer time, that is maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and they may heal with scarring. And the disease is often associated with HIV infected individuals. Another type of aphthous ulceration is where it presents in the form of small multiple ulcers which resemble the ulcers of herpes simplex. So the crops of ulcers are there, but herpes virus has not been isolated. Aphthous ulcer associated with the Behçet syndrome. It is associated with oral, genital and ocular lesions. Histopathology is non-specific. The presence of Anish-Kaus cells is not pathognomonic because it can be seen in other diseases also. In Ritter syndrome, there is a tetrad of symptoms: mucocutaneous lesions, urethritis, balanitis and conjunctivitis. Sarcoidosis needs a mention because the lesions resemble that of tuberculosis. Histopathologically also they show the granulomas with Langerhans cells, but here they are non-caseating granulomas and microorganisms cannot be isolated. Other granulomatous lesions are Wegener granulomatosis, wherein the granular lesions are seen on the gingiva and termed as strawberry gingivitis. A non-specific chronic granulomatous disease also has been shown to be seen. These are the various hormones and the hyposecretion and hypersecretion conditions which are caused by them. Of concern is a pituitary dwarfism, where the anterior pituitary hormones are deficient, and it is before the growing age in the childhood, whereas oversecretion causes gigantism if it occurs before the growing age. If it occurs after the ossification is complete, it can lead to acromegaly. It is oversecretion of the growth hormone. So in this, there is progressive somatic disfigurement. So there are thick lips, negroid lips, the tongue is enlarged, there is jaw thickening. Because of the enlarged tongue, there may be malocclusion, spacing of the teeth. Then hypertrophy of the palatal tissues can lead to sleep apnea. The glands are also involved. The radiograph shows mandibular prognathism, taurodontism, and hypercementosis. The thyroid hormones, it manifests as cretinism in children, which is characterized by enlarged tongue, development of malocclusion, and there is delayed eruption of the tooth. The hyperparathyroidism is of importance because it affects the calcium metabolism. It increases the serum calcium by withdrawing the calcium from the bone because of osteoclastic activity. So radiographically, what is seen is generalized radiolucency of the jaws. And it may also show ground glass appearance. When there is a localized bone removal, it can lead to multiple punched out cystic areas of bone, that is osteitis fibrosa cystica. And that is brown. It may also present as a brown tumor of hyperparathyroidism, which appears brown because of the hemorrhagic areas in it. And histopathologically, with the osteoclast-like giant cell, it has a resemblance to central giant cell granuloma of the bone. The hormonal diabetes mellitus, it is a syndrome of impaired carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism, which is caused by either lack of insulin or decreased sensitivity of tissues to the insulin. The type 2 is the adult onset or maturity type, which is more common. It is characterized by polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphasia. The oral manifestations are mainly due to abnormal neutrophil function, so there are various infections of the oral tissues, gingival and periodontal tissues. There is microangiopathy, which affects the vascularity, and there is an altered oral flora. So the manifestations are because of these three factors. The diagnosis is raised blood sugar, done with the help of blood sugar estimation, and treatment is insulin therapy. The vitamins, the fat soluble and water soluble vitamins, and these are the deficiency diseases which are caused. Vitamin A deficiency, it not only affects the eyes, but because they have an effect on the cell development, cell differentiation, it is also of significance in the oral mucosa. It causes keratinizing metaplasia. So white keratotic lesions may appear, hyperkeratotic changes may appear in the oral epithelium, and it also can affect the gland producing the xerostomia. If it occurs at an earlier age, it can also affect the oral ectoderm and thus the development of the teeth. Vitamin C causes scurvy, deficiency causes scurvy, and it is associated with defective collagen formation and thus the fragility of the vessel walls, and it is characterized by the bogey ulcerative gingiva, which tends to bleed, and it is called as scorbutic gingivitis. This has to be differentiated from anal hematological abnormalities as in leukemic enlargement of the gingiva and other medication side effects. The mineral metabolism, major and the trace elements, amongst these, it is the fluorides, which are known for their antichoriogenic activity. They prevent the demineralization of tooth, enhance remineralization, reduce enamel solubility, and thus they are antichoriogenic. Increase in the fluoride intake than 1 ppm parts per million of drinking water can lead to dental fluorosis. So this excess fluoride interferes with the mineralization of the enamel, and this is a mild form, whereas this is a very mild form. This is a mild form where the hypoplastic areas are seen on the enamel surface, a moderate form and a severe form where the corroded appearance of the tooth is seen. And this has to be differentiated from other enamel hypoplasias. The normal calcium level is 9 to 11 grams per deciliter, and in tetany, that is a reduced calcium, serum calcium, there is a muscular spasm. The protein metabolism causes, the deficiency of protein causes kwashiorkor, whereas a prolonged starvation deficiency causes marasmus. So there is a spectrum of disease, protein, energy, malnutrition. Carbohydrate metabolism disturbance is characterized by Hurler's syndrome, which have the gargoyle cells in them. The lipid metabolism, there is accumulation of various lipids in the cells, as seen here, Fabry's, Gaucher's, Niemann-Pick and Fabry's disease. The Gaucher cells, they have the accumulation. The macrophages are accumulated with the glucocerebrocytes, implant, partial dentures. They are made up of all exogenous material and can have an impact on the mucosal, oral mucosa. Now, why do they produce the reactions? It is because the surface properties of the materials, they may have microporosities or chemical stability. The material may invoke the allergic reactions. The prosthesis may cause a mechanical irritation. There may be plaque accumulation on the surface, and the plaque microorganisms can also lead to the disease. There are direct consequences like denture stomatitis, flabby ridges, hyperplasia, angular cheilitis, as named here, denture stomatitis, where the stomatitis in the denture base area is seen, which may be attributed to the candida. The flabby ridges are there when abnormal forces on the ridges are there. The bone is resolved and it is replaced by the fibrous tissue. There may be denture irritation, hyperplasia. The traumatic ulcers because of the denture bases may be found because of overextended denture flanges. Angular cheilitis is a common involvement at the corners or commissures of the mouth. It is because of reduced vertical dimension of occlusion. Because of reduced vertical dimension, there may be accumulation of saliva in it, and this provokes the candida infection in the area. There may be underlying nutritional deficiencies like vitamin B or riboflavin deficiency, to be more specific, or iron deficiency anemia. The treatment is variable depending on the etiology. The primary cause may be correct. Burning mouth syndromes may sometimes be associated with the prosthesis. Gagging, a very common phenomenon observed with the prosthesis. The residual reduction, that is resorption of the residual ridges, may occur due to various reasons. The overdenture abutments, they can show the caries and periodontal disease because of plaque accumulation and bacterial colonization. The mechanical irritation from the denture has rarely been said to be causing the chronic constant irritation leading to malignancy. If there is an ulceration which doesn't heal for a long time, it needs to be biopsied to rule out the malignancy. Now, the indirect consequences of wearing the dentures, there are mucosal pathologies related to the implants. There is peri-implant mucositis. There is peri-implantitis, that is the bone is also involved. There may be gingival dehiscence and recession or development of peripheral giant cell granulomas. Now this is all related to the bacterial infection, the plaque accumulation, the abnormal forces on the implants. This is a fistula and this is inflammatory proliferation of the area, tissues around the implant. Hypertrophy of the gingiva, there may be abscess as seen here. This is a dehiscence caused because of implant, gingival recession because of the implant. This is peri-implant mucositis where only mucosa is involved, and this is peri-implantitis which further progresses into the periodontal ligament and bone. The preventive measures can be taken to prevent these reactions. Some of the indirect consequences, they are atrophy of the masticatory muscles because there is a reduction in the masticatory forces, so muscles can get atrophied. There may be nutritional deficiencies, allergic reactions to the material used. It may manifest in the form of lichenoid reactions on the oral